Did Blake Lively's director, Paul Feig, just prove she's lying? What she's saying then, Mr. Feig, is a lie.
Blake Lively totally went nuts after getting absolutely destroyed by her own director from A Simple Favor.
You got trolled online for your own actions.
Honestly, it's a mess that everyone's trying to avoid. But the director's revelations are definitely going to shine a not-so-flattering light on Blake.
It's just funny because now we can see that it's absolute nonsense.
And let's be real. Who knows the crew's dirty secrets better than the person in charge, right? Blake Lively has been trying so hard to sell this poor me victim story. It's honestly kind of impressive.
I just reported on Blake being terrified to walk the carpet.
She's spent months painting this picture of herself as this fragile, emotionally destroyed woman who can barely keep it together. You know the type: crippling trauma, extreme anxiety, emotional devastation, all that jazz.
If you guys remember, the emotional impact of Miss Lively has been extreme, not only affecting her, but her family, including her husband and 4 children.
And yet, somehow, when she gets a chance to show up at the A Simple Favor premiere, what does she do? Strut down the red carpet like she's the queen of the world.
Another Simple Favor was a nightmare.
Yeah, sure, Blake. You're totally too shattered to show your face in public, but let's make sure every single camera catches your best angle as you stroll into the event. If the goal was to convince people that Justin Baldoni ruined her life, she completely missed the mark.
Paul Feig seems to be the one that can sort of get through to them both.
Instead of looking like a woman broken by this whole legal mess, she looked like someone who was just soaking up all the attention, like she was on top of the world. But hey, who needs credibility when you've got a photographer's flashbulbs lighting up your face, right?
There are days when she has struggled to get out of bed, and she frequently chooses not to venture outside in public.
So there she is, all smiles, all confidence, snapping pics with fans, and posting her perfectly curated, candid moments on social media. This was the same woman who just days before told the court that she could barely even leave the house because of her anxiety and trauma.
Behind closed doors, she has suffered from grief, fear, trauma, and extreme anxiety. She's also been experiencing repeated and painful physical symptoms as a result. Mr. Reynolds, too, has been affected mentally, physically, professionally by his wife and children's pain.
She's out here making sure every moment is captured and uploaded for all to see.
It doesn't seem like you're having that tough of a time, Blake Lively, I gotta be honest. And now your director is saying, well, you're wrong. She is not terrified to walk the red carpet.
Talk about a PR masterclass. Because who wouldn't believe someone who's struggling to leave the house, but still finds the strength to take 72 photos in one night, all while flashing a smile brighter than a lighthouse? If her legal team was hoping this would make her case airtight, they seriously underestimated how much of a mess this whole thing was turning out to be.
What she's saying then, Mr. Feig, is a lie in her lawsuit because you, as a friend, are acknowledging that, yes, no, she's not afraid to go out in public.
But here's where the real plot twist happens. Her own director, Paul Feig, did her dirty. You know, the guy who directed A Simple Favor, the movie that she's now trying to drag through the mud with this lawsuit.
Paul Feig writing to Melanie King, you're wrong. Now, Melanie wrote Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick before they walked the red carpet at the South by Southwest, another Simple Favor premiere. I just reported on Blake being terrified to walk the carpet as Anna is pissed and never wants to work with her again.
Feig wasn't having any of it. When a journalist tried to sell the whole "Blake is terrified to be seen at the premiere" line, Feig shut it down immediately. And I'm talking immediately with just 2 words. You're wrong. Just like that. No hesitation, no PR nonsense. He didn't mince words. He straight up called her out, and let's be real. He did it in the most savage way possible.
Now, him saying you're wrong is very strange to me because she's not wrong. He's just out there gaslighting the world into pretending that Blake and Anna are best friends when they're not.
And those 2 words, game over. In one fell swoop, Feig managed to wipe out any shred of credibility Blake had left. Suddenly, it wasn't just her behavior exposing the lie. It was her own director saying that none of it was true. Ouch! This wasn't some random tabloid writer spilling tea. This was the director of her own movie. The man who saw her every day, who was supposed to be supporting her, just dismantled her entire narrative with a few words. Talk about being thrown under the bus.
I said, please clarify, Paul Feig, are you confirming Blake's lying in her complaint about being terrified to go out and wasn't terrified to see people at South by Southwest?
Now, let's get real for a second. Feig wasn't doing this because he cared about the drama between Blake and Baldoni. No, no, no. Feig was doing this because he's in the business of making sure his movie doesn't get dragged into a public dumpster fire.
But at least engage, repost, retweet. Yeah, let's help get this a little louder because maybe at some point he'll have to address this. It'd be interesting to see him finally actually address something that's factual because he's basically admitting she's lying.
This lawsuit? It's a PR nightmare for him, and he needed to make sure it didn't stick to a simple favor. Imagine the damage control if Feig hadn't put a stop to it. Every time people brought up the movie, they'd remember the lawsuit and Blake's breakdown that never really happened.
She was out there, and we're going to go through all the things that she said since about how much fun she had and how great it was to go back outside.
Feig needed to shut it down, and fast. So, he pulled the rug out from under Blake, dismissing her entire narrative without even breaking a sweat. Feig's response wasn't just some snarky remark. It was a masterstroke in protecting his project. And as a side benefit, he destroyed Lively's case at the same time. Talk about killing two birds with one stone.
Also, why are you always trying to deny that Anna and Blake can't stand each other when they can't? Your crew confirmed this to me. Now, Paul's pretty vocal on social media. He has yet to reply.
And if you think Feig's words were the worst blow, hold on to your seat because we're just getting started. Because right when Lively thought she had the public fooled, the Ari Emanuel audio dropped. And, well, that was a whole new level of mess. And I mean, talk about a plot twist.
We reported on this leaked audio last week. How Ari Emanuel, the weirdest part of this was how somehow in the show's history of the podcast, this was the first show that wasn't taped. Somehow the audio didn't get taped of the one episode in his 30 years, whatever it was, of shows of Freakonomics, has never messed up a show, Greg.
March 11th, 2024 rolls around, and out comes the Ari Emanuel leaked audio. And with it, Blake's carefully curated, glossy image came crashing down faster than a toddler on a sugar high. This wasn't just some messy Hollywood tiff anymore. This was a full-blown industry scandal, and it had Blake, her husband Ryan Reynolds, and one of the biggest power players in Hollywood, Ari Emanuel, all wrapped up in a career sabotage mess.
He basically admits, yeah, I fired him because I'm friends with them. I don't even know if the things are true. Baloney, Baldoni. If he did it, it's effed up. The fact that WME fired Justin is a huge cause for a lot of the damages that he's now suffering, including the loss of his Pac-Man movie and deals that Wayfair had. What are the real ramifications of this? And does it help that there's now actual audio of it?
You see, during a January 2024 episode of the Freakonomics podcast, Ari Emanuel, the big boss over at WME, William Morris Endeavor, casually admitted that he personally fired Justin Baldoni from the agency. And why? Well, apparently, it wasn't because Baldoni did anything wrong or because the guy had a criminal record. Nope. It was because Emanuel is buddies with Lively and Reynolds. Straight up.
You know, what you're trying to prove in the defamation case is that you actually suffered damages related to whatever you were defamed about or whatever was mistruth about you. And sometimes that's a hard nexus to prove. It's going to be hard nexus for Lively to prove that her skincare line tanked.
That's the moment Lively's narrative totally fell apart. For months, she had been spinning this story about how the industry was distancing itself from Baldoni because of these serious accusations against him. But as it turns out, the reality was far juicier. Baldoni was dropped because of friendship, not facts. How's that for a twist? Ari Emanuel, the CEO of the largest talent agency in Hollywood, openly admits he let his personal connections dictate a career-ending decision.
Absolutely got rid of him because of these things that were said. And so now he's got a clear line to get damaged.
And if you think that's where the drama stops, buckle up. Because not only was Baldoni fired without any proof of wrongdoing, but that firing absolutely wrecked his career. The guy had a live-action Pac-Man movie lined up, a major studio-backed project that could have been his ticket to superstardom. But after WME dropped him, that movie went poof, vanished, gone. The same thing happened with Wayfarer Studios.
That's right. And so if you have somebody who has a significant amount of power in the industry and has the ability to tell stars not to go on your podcast in the future, and as general ability to make life uncomfortable for you and ask for a favor, you're more inclined to do it, right?
They had been in talks with streaming giants like Amazon Prime Video and Apple TV Plus for a new series, one that was supposed to be the crown jewel of their production. But after Baldoni was exiled from the industry like he had the plague, dead in the water. No streaming platform is going to sign a guy who's just been quietly tossed out by the most powerful talent agency in Hollywood. So yeah, Baldoni lost millions, and his career basically fell apart, all because of Lively's inner circle. A little nepotism goes a long way, doesn't it?
And so I think there could be some argument about whether it was leaked and shouldn't have been leaked, and should they have the information or what it may be. But no matter what happens, this is a damning quote.
And here's the kicker for Lively. This wasn't some vague gossip or sources close to the situation stuff. This was straight up recorded proof. Before the audio dropped, there was still some wiggle room for Lively's PR team to work with. They could have spun this into some vague reputational concerns nonsense, but now that excuse was gone in an instant.
This dispute, these words that were said by Lively side, had a clear, immediate negative impact on Baldoni's career.
You have Ari Emanuel himself admitting that he had no idea if Baldoni had actually done anything wrong. He just didn't want to deal with the mess, so he made a power move and shut it down, crushing Baldoni's career in the process. That's the kind of irrefutable evidence that no PR spin can cover up. Lively's narrative, the one where she was the poor, traumatized victim, just got completely shredded.
It's getting more personal. They're going to discover more information that's going to make them angry. They're out to salvage their reputation, so there's not going to be an easy way to walk away from this and say, okay, let's just call it a day.
As for the legal implications, oh, they're huge. With this bombshell, Baldoni's defamation case just got a whole lot stronger. The man now had a direct recorded admission from WME's CEO that his firing had nothing to do with actual wrongdoing. That's the kind of thing that makes a lawsuit almost impossible to lose.
Has never messed up a show, Greg, but somehow the one with the most powerful agent, I think you work with some of these agents, somehow it got deleted.
And the fun doesn't stop there. The podcast episode where all of this went down, the one where Emanuel just casually threw Baldoni under the bus for his personal friends, yeah, that episode of Freakonomics, which had been in the works for months and was part of a series with hundreds of other episodes, that one mysteriously never aired. And what was the excuse? Oh, just a technical issue. Right. The one podcast out of 500 plus episodes that had an inconvenient little glitch? Sure, we'll buy that.
Could Ari Emanuel have enough power to tell this podcast guy to kill that piece?
Except guess what? The internet wasn't having it. It didn't take long for independent journalists and online sleuths to grab that audio, transcribe it, and spread it everywhere. TikTok, YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, Reddit, you name it. Everyone had the scoop. And suddenly, the entire industry's dirty laundry was laid out for the world to see. When people start digging, there's no hiding it. And this wasn't just about Baldoni losing his job. It was about seeing the lengths Hollywood will go to protect its own. So, here's the real kicker. Blake Lively, she's fine. Even after the lawsuit, after the drama, after all the emotional devastation she's been claiming, she's out there getting deals.
Statistically, it should. It should happen when they have a court-ordered mediation or some sort of event where they try to settle. If it doesn't happen, I think this is like one of those cases that has enough of the bad feelings on both sides that it could potentially show up in a trial.
She just landed a narration gig for Hulu's upcoming documentary Secrets of the Penguins. A career that supposedly crashed and burned? Yeah, not so much. And Ryan Reynolds? He's still Hollywood's golden boy, signing multi-million-dollar deals, headlining major franchises, living the dream while Baldoni's career is quietly buried. And Baldoni? He's the one who's left holding the bag.
More work coming out. No one's firing you from these gigs. You're getting support from Hulu, obsessed with them, and look at this.
Now, here's where things get even juicier. This isn't over. Far from it. While most lawsuits settle, this one's going to trial. Lively and Baldoni aren't just fighting over money or a win. They're fighting for their reputations. Lively's PR game is already spiraling out of control. She's been exposed for playing both sides of the victim narrative. She was out there in the public eye acting like nothing had happened, smiling and posing at film festivals while telling the courts she was emotionally wrecked.
But you're trying to tell us that you're losing gigs and you're having a tough time. You get out, it looks like all Hollywood still has your back, Blake. That's not good for showing damages.
It's kind of hard to sell the I'm broken story when you're out there having the time of your life in front of cameras. And now, with the audio proving that Baldoni's career was destroyed over favoritism, her credibility is sinking faster than a lead balloon.
If you're seeing any damages, it's because of actions affected by your own behavior.
But don't think for a second that Lively's going to back down. She's too invested now. This isn't about justice, it's about control. She's spent months, if not years, building this case, and she can't just walk away.
Oh, just from a PR standpoint, if they both struck an agreement and walked away, that would be the smartest thing. Because it was never going to get any better from Lively.
If she settles, if she admits any wrongdoing, it's game over for her. She has too much to lose. And Baldoni, he's got no reason to settle. The leaked audio handed him a golden ticket, irrefutable evidence of industry corruption.
I hope at some point she's able and forced to acknowledge that, but I'm not holding my breath.
A recorded confession from one of the most powerful men in Hollywood, admitting that Baldoni's career was destroyed by a personal vendetta, not any wrongdoing on his part. It's not just a he said, she said situation anymore. This is cold, hard evidence that Hollywood's inner circle plays favorites and sabotages people for the slightest personal reason.
That shifted the narrative, and she could have walked away and probably had a PR victory just off that document. Now, I think with the lawsuit going and both sides firing guns at each other, I think it's not going to get any better for either of them going forward. It's really not.
So now, there's only one way out: trial. And if this thing goes to trial, you can bet it's going to be one of the ugliest legal battles Hollywood has seen in a long time. This isn't just about Lively and Baldoni anymore. It's about the system itself, the system that props up the powerful at the expense of everyone else. This case is going to be a bloodbath, and as more evidence comes to light, as insiders start speaking out, it's only going to get worse. The drama is just getting started.
Here's where things get interesting. All right, so now Blake's out there saying, thank you to the fans. Love has returned us. So I guess all things are good now. As we look at this, watching A Simple Favor opening night felt like a rock concert. Thank you to the very best audience.
And honestly, Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni could have wrapped this whole mess up in a heartbeat. A simple public handshake, a carefully worded statement, and boom, case closed. They could have easily buried this lawsuit before it even had a chance to spread like wildfire. Both of them would have walked away with their reputations intact, careers untouched, and the kind of PR spin that Hollywood loves so much.
Doesn't sound like somebody who's suffering to go outside when she's fighting to maintain, she can't venture outside in public. She's struggling to get out of bed.
It would have been an absolute breeze. The media would have moved on. The public would have bought the misunderstanding angle, and both Lively and Baldoni would have kept doing their thing, no messy lawsuit hanging over their heads. And let's be honest, it would have worked. Hollywood doesn't care about justice, it cares about optics.
You got trolled online for your own actions. You're now being trolled again for trying to steal the movie from Justin and over-exaggerating these things.
If they'd just smiled for the cameras, done the whole "we've resolved our differences" routine, no one would have blinked. They would have kept working, and the industry would have moved on to the next scandal. But instead, they decided to go down in flames.
These are all you're doing. And if you had felt uncomfortable at any point, why didn't you just say it to Justin in the moment?
There was a perfect opportunity staring them right in the face. A Simple Favor. A project that had already been greenlit back in May 2022 by Lionsgate. A high-profile sequel, with both Lively and Anna Kendrick coming back, and Paul Feig returning to direct. This was their chance to make everything go away.
This whole thing is just blown up way past anybody's expectations, and now you're dragging in co-stars and other celebrities, and they're all incredibly frustrated with you for it.
What better way to move on from a public feud than to reunite on one of the biggest movie projects of the year? The media would have eaten it up. The headlines would have written themselves. Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni set differences aside for a simple favor sequel. They could have sat down for interviews and talked about being professionals, about how they were both above the drama.
It's just funny because now we can see that it's absolute nonsense.
The case could have been spun into something harmless, a minor bump in the road, and suddenly the entire lawsuit would have looked like an unfortunate misunderstanding. The PR machine would have gone into overdrive, transforming a potential disaster into a comeback story. Hollywood studios would have been thrilled. Lionsgate would have been dancing in the streets knowing they could now focus on promoting the movie instead of trying to put out the fire. But nope, that didn't happen.
Couldn't you do that with Justin? You did it with Anna, and you don't like Anna. You couldn't have just done it with Justin. She's learned her lesson. If she didn't play nice with Anna, then it's going to get even worse for her. So now she's got to play nice with someone she doesn't like.
This whole lawsuit stopped being about resolving differences a long time ago. It's not about finding common ground anymore. It's all about ego, power, and reputational survival now. Neither side can afford to back down. Lively can't just let this go, because if she did, she'd have to admit she exaggerated her claims.
If she had just done this with Justin, I think this whole thing would have been nipped in the bud and nobody would have talked about it. There wouldn't have been a need for a lawsuit. They would have just gone about their lives. It's maddening that she couldn't have done this with Justin.
She's been doubling down for months, telling the court that this lawsuit has left her emotionally shattered, unable to work, unable to function in public spaces without losing it. If she suddenly says, actually, let's move on now, she's opening the door to admitting that the whole thing was never about seeking justice. It was about control. She can't backtrack now. Not after all the public drama. She's stuck, and she knows it.
Because, yes, and indeed told many people online who report on this that clearly she's not that good with Anna. If they were, they'd be like arm in arm supporting and like, hey, what's up, everybody? And that was exactly not what they were doing.
And Baldoni? He's got no incentive to settle. He's already won the PR battle. Thanks to that leaked audio from Ari Emanuel, he's got the golden ticket. Undeniable. Recorded proof that his career was sabotaged by favoritism, not because of anything he did. He's not looking to patch up his reputation anymore. He wants justice. This is no longer a defamation case, it's a career sabotage case, and Baldoni's legal team is ready to take it to the end. The evidence is stacked in his favor, and why back down when you've got the goods? He has every reason to keep pushing for a trial.
So, look, there's clear drama here still going. Paul, you stepped in it. Stop. And what your wife did is even worse. We talked about that in yesterday's video. I hope you guys saw what...
And now, things are about to get ugly, because this isn't just about Lively and Baldoni anymore. It's about a power struggle that neither side can afford to lose. Hollywood is watching, and they know this case could expose a whole lot of dirt. Behind closed doors, studios, agencies, and PR firms are holding their breath. They know that if this case makes it to court, every detail will be dragged into the light. Private emails, text messages, insider conversations, everything will be exposed.
Don't lie about it. There's ways to do it. Like, can we focus on the movie, please? Thank you. Like, there's ways to do it without lying, which you are, Paul. You're absolutely lying here because you know these two do not get along. You know it was a nightmare to work with them.
Lively, who's been living in a carefully controlled PR bubble, is about to face the nightmare scenario. Right now, the worst of the damage is coming from outside leaks. Journalists piecing together the story and making it a public spectacle. But if this goes to trial, every behind-the-scenes conversation, every questionable decision her team has made, it's all coming out.
But you're trying to tell us that you're losing gigs and you're having a tough time. You get out because it looks like all Hollywood still has your back, Blake.
And that's something Hollywood elites fear more than anything: exposure. They hate the idea of their dirty laundry getting aired for all to see. And that's why most lawsuits settle. 92% settle before trial. Why? Because the damage control costs more than the settlement, and no one wants their skeletons dragged into the open. But in this case, this is the 8% that won't settle, because no one is willing to blink first. Lively's not about to admit defeat. She's too deep in this. Baldoni's not backing down because he's been publicly humiliated, and now he wants payback. So if you want to stay updated on this Hollywood showdown, don't forget to subscribe and like the video, because this legal war is just getting started.